Hey, welcome back. Imagine having a supernatural power on your side to help you through each day. This episode of Second Breakfast is brought to you by your higher power. The only cost, sorry, your higher power is free and ready to tap into at any time. Your only cost, of course, will be your honesty. I use my higher power every day to give thanks and to ask for help. But most of all, I use my higher power, gratitude. Live in gratitude, live in thanks every single day. You will be amazed at the changes in your life if you allow yourself to use this eternal free service. Hey, we will be back right after the intro to deal with these few items up here and some other things, so please come back and watch. Pour my podum into the coffee. And that's done. So let's get straight into the show. Hey, of course, we've been quite busy over here at Occam's Razor with the daily update on the garden, as well as doing this show. And as you know, we've stopped doing the nap because, well, the no answer period is really just more annoyingly the no answer period. For the last 2 days in question period, all they've done is mostly ask the same question and always get no answer because they know the answer that they want, which is some form of accountability by the Liberals, but each day this is getting impossible to achieve. In fact, they are doing the exact opposite of what is necessary in every single thing. It's as if they were born to be evil, absolutely evil. But before we get into that, let's just cruise right past our channels. Of course, you know, there's the way Rumble works. This is YouTube, I believe. Yes, this is YouTube. So Rumble, the way it works, of course, is that you've got your let's go back here. This is one of the channels, but the major account itself is actually Occam's Razor, and within that you can actually find all our episodes. So let's get straight past our other channel here and straight into this. So let's start to show it a bit of
should we cut consultant spend?
Some satire.
Francois, Canada has a spending problem.
I agree. Who should suffer?
Seniors.
Excellent choice. They're already retired.
Any other ideas?
We could reduce old age security.
Good. What else?
Raise the retirement age.
Excellent. What else?
Reduce benefits.
Keep going.
Should we cut consultant spending?
Don't be ridiculous. They write the reports that tell us what to cut.
Foreign aid?
Absolutely not. How would foreign countries know we're compassionate?
CBC?
Then who would explain why this is actually a good thing?
Government bureaucracy?
Francois, we're trying to save money, not create unemployment.
MP pensions?
What kind of extremist are you?
Minister salaries?
Now you're just being emotional.
So, just to be clear, the people with guaranteed pensions should keep theirs, and the people who paid into the system their entire lives should lose theirs?
Exactly. Now you're thinking like a finance minister.
Brilliant. Who should announce it?
Not us. Find an expert.
A university professor?
Perfect.
One whose research is funded by government grants?
Even better.
And then have him explain it on CBC?
Now you're thinking.
What should he call it?
A difficult but necessary conversation.
And if seniors get angry?
Tell them the world is more divided and dangerous than ever.
What does that have to do with pensions?
Nothing, but it works on television.
Indeed, it works on television. In fact, it seems to work on the El Bozos every single day because they seem to want to ignore every single thing that is wrong. Now you can see in the background of the today's thumbnail, it was just this quirky picture put together, but it pretty well explains exactly what's been happening in Canada since they've come into power. If you look at every single chart that we have in regards to absolutely everything, except of course for cost and debt, it's like the opposite line going up. And of course, corruption is the opposite line going up, and getting in bed with evil communists, that's the opposite line going straight up, and waste going straight up. Yeah, but as a result of that, everything else that is a measured metric of how good Canada is or doing, yes, it's always a continuing declining line since 2015. They've done nothing. And if people want to argue with me and say the opposite, well, please, for the love of God, could you just give me one example of success over the last 11 years that was worth $1 trillion deficit that's costing us over $10 million per hour in interest debt charges just to keep the creditors at bay? So here's a post by Great Canadian Moose. Listen up, Ontario. It says, something big is happening in Ontario and almost no one is talking about it. Premier Ford has quietly passed a law that opens the door to water privatization across Ontario. And he's hoping you won't notice. The Water and Wastewater Public Corporations Act lets the government seize your local water system and hand it over to a for-profit corporation without your consent. History is clear. When for-profit corporations control our water systems, the results are disastrous. Bigger bills, bad service, dirty water. Water is a human right, not a commodity. It's not too late to stop this and tell Premier Ford our water is not for sale. Take action now. Indeed, it's time to start writing your MLA and the Premier. What I've seen in my lifetime is even the last county I lived in, even though I was on a well, they tried to install water meters on us, even though we were, we had to manage our own well. If we had well issues, we had to dig our own well. We provide or pay for the power that pumps the water out of the well. We test our own wells. We had to modify our wells and ensure to make them even more healthy, like with ultraviolet filters. And then they wanted to put a water meter on it because, that's what governments want to do. They want to be able to tax every single thing. Now that they've realized that they can't squeeze enough tax money out of it, they realize, let's sell it to our friends. Then they can make a bunch of money off of it. Throughout the wintertime, my delivery costs and sewage costs are more than the actual amount of water that I actually use. And I can see this going up. And then, of course, every single year, the cost per gallon goes up every single year. And imagine, as soon as what usually happens, and it's happened down in the States, you have large corporations take over these services for cities, and then they make a big deal out of it. And next thing you know, they start giving themselves bonuses, and they don't actually invest into the system, and they get high returns for themselves, and then the system goes to crap. And then you have nobody to go to except this faceless company that isn't accountable to the taxpayer, that for some reason the municipality decided, I guess we'll just sell them. But now, I guess it seems the provincial government wants to take that choice away from the municipality. Acting like kings. It's time to contact them. Mario Zelaya has a post here. Major breaking. The Ford Carney Initiative is officially a policy laundering scandal. Yes, like I said, Doug Ford is not a conservative. He is a progressive, cloaked as a conservative. That's why you can't have a progressive conservatives. They are all morons. I mean, oxymorons. So the Ford Carney Initiative is officially sold as a policy laundering scandal. They sold it as helping first-time buyers. It's now confirmed. It's helping the wealthy buy more rental properties. The conspiracy theory is real. It's a rebate for all buyers, first, second, fifth, 10th property as rentals. Investors with $20 million portfolios qualify. There's no income cap, no portfolio cap, no anti-flipping clause. Not that you'd be making much money flipping houses these days. A foreign investor buying their 10th pre-construction condo gets the same $130,000 rebate as a young couple buying their first home. No, that's wrong. That's insane. It's a $22 billion boondoggle that's feeding the exact people who own the rentals renters are trying to escape from. This is not a policy failure. It's helping exactly who they designed it for. They did it on purpose. Once again, and they lie to you straight to your face. Oh, this is going to help you. And then it does the exact opposite. Yeah, and then to quote, the Toronto Red Star, like I keep saying, even though they are the most biased publication right next to the Globe and Pale, a stop clock is still right twice a day. Here's a post by Holly Doan. over at Blacklock's Commons by 193 to 134. Vote rejects opposition motion to freeze mandatory fees charged to video streaming services. Companies like Netflix and Disney Plus face a tripling of rates from 5 to 15% yearly Canadian revenues under May 21st CRTC order. So, yeah, I guess I'll cancel 2 of my services, and my 1 remaining service will cost as much as the 3 services that I had. And really, I've been thinking about it for months now. I just don't watch enough of it. Really, I don't. I really don't. And, there's other free services out there. Tubi, Plex. And, of course, YouTube has a wide range of movies on there as well. And you can actually get an account for YouTube. And, not have to deal with all their advertisement. But, again, it's not cheap, especially for people who are struggling. But, they got free movies, and they probably have a larger repertoire that continually gets added to, along, of course, with all these great content creators that they just want to stifle. And for some reason, a lot of people are just having their streaming contents canceled completely. Actually, there's an interesting one that just come up. Let me bring this up to my bookmarks here. Nerdrotic here. If you don't know who Nerdrotic is, they have probably one of the busiest every Friday live streams. Massive live stream. And of course, they talk about culture. Everything they keep warning about is usually anti-cultural Marxist, and they keep proving to the industry that you guys keep making the wrong choices. And then, of course, as a result, everything they put out is usually garbage, doesn't get watched, doesn't get the revenue that they expected it would. And these guys always call it out ahead of time, and they are almost 100% right every single time. Anyways, he's like, hey, Team YouTube, my Nerdrotic live channel just had a stream taken down for a firearm guideline violation over parody AI video. So, of course, Team YouTube went and sent him a DM right away because I guess he's a larger channel. So we don't know if they've actually resolved this issue. A lot of us think it was probably due to a very, very funny Black Snape's video of Snape doing drive-bys. It was an AI generated completely funny, but, totalitarianism doesn't have a sense of humor. Here's a post by Andrew Scheer. Unbelievable. Government documents released. Mark Carney's government hasn't turned a shovel or laid an inch of track for the higher speed rail project. Of course they haven't. Yet they are paying out millions in executive bonuses. 100% of officials at Alto got big bonuses. What? Meetings and photo ops? That's because that's what the Liberals do every single time when they get into power, is that they squander money, they enrich themselves and their friends, and the population never learns from history, and they just keep voting them back in, so they keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again, which is enriching themselves and making the country suffer. Here's a post by the real Mr. Bench. Ukraine is not in a recession, but Canada is. Read that again. Ukraine is fighting missiles, blackouts, energy strikes, transport disruption, and a full-scale war. Canada is fighting. Trudeau, Freeland, Carney, and the Liberal Party. Yes, their legacy of still affecting us. Ukraine took a war hit first quarter and still forecasts growth in 2026. Canada had a GDP drop in quarter four, flatline in quarter one, and business investment fall for 5 straight quarters. No missiles, no bombed out power grids, no front line, just liberals. Just liberals destroying Canada. Liberal economics doing what liberal economics does. Ukraine has war. Canada has liberals. That is the embarrassment. And of course, just look at this chart right here. Let's bring this up and make it a little bigger. Yeah, look at there. Growth. And in Canada, Yep. That's what you get when you put liberals in power. They always find ways to tax more, spend more, and never provide results, but they will gladly tell you to your face that they are providing results when they're not. They are just the slimiest people. Here we go. Mary Azalea insane. There should be a rule. Any elected government official that refuses to testify in committee should be fined $25,000 personally. Well, yeah. Good luck with changing the operating procedures in Parliament that's going to do anything that keeps any MP accountable. And the party fined $250,000. Woo! Yeah, that would bankrupt the NDP in like one full swoop. Watch how quickly they lose their smug attitude. Corrupt liberal mafia. Well, let's watch this. And here we are, Minister of Insanity. Health or public health or something to do with health and medicine or something. They keep changing the names. It used to be in the past we had set amounts of ministries, not too many that made sense. But ever since the Liberals got in, they create so many awkward, weird multiple little ministries. And of course, you get in these positions and Secretary of State positions and all that BS. Well, then it gives them more money. It's incentives. And it's competition within the party. Oh, that's why this upcoming shuffle might even kick this ridiculous person out. But she is so smug and refuses to answer questions. Treats everyone like they are lower than her. You can just tell in her attitude. In some press conferences, she just wouldn't even answer. Let's stare the reporter down. I'm not answering that. I don't have to answer that. You're like something on the bottom of my shoe. It's the expression that she often gives. But then again, she's the daughter of a prime minister from Haiti. She was born and raised in Haiti. She doesn't have the same cultural values and ethics that we do here in Canada. She was not brought up in that environment to respect other people and have some form of accountability. She grew up in a corrupt political system. So she's brought that corruption with her, and it's very evident right here in committee. Let's make sure we got the sound on.
Can you come and testify before the Health Committee, before the end of summer, to clarify all these questions that we have about prescribed IT?
Je ne vais pas me commettre.
I will not commit.
Oh, I can't understand why you can't spend some time and make sure that you come to the Health Committee to explain all these questions that we have. So can you commit today, before the summer break, that you'll come to the Health Committee and explain all this?
Je vous ai déjà dit, Monsieur Mézier, que je ne vais pas me commettre.
I've already told you I will not commit.
Hey, Liberals, explain yourselves. Explain why you refuse accountability and refuse to open the books, refuse to answer questions, refuse to tell us where you have sent our billions. And it's just one of the many debacles that they have. The amount of money they have just wasted and lost and refused to be accountable or tell us where it went, or tell us who spent it, or tell us whose pocket it went into. And we told this all back in 2015 before they got elected. Once they do this, it'll be nonstop corruption, and that's what we've had for the last 11 years. Garnet Genis, shocking. This company fired Canadian workers and hired illegal workers. After they had been found out, Liberals gave them multiple rounds of subsidies anyways. Why? Because that's what they do. When faced with failure, always reinforce failure. That's the Liberal mantra. Your tax dollars went to subsidize a company that fired Canadians and hired illegal workers. The minister, who is supposed to be responsible for jobs, says that she wasn't aware of this, even though it was her government that provided me with the information. Let's bring this one up.
One of the recent recommendations of this committee report on youth unemployment was to apply strict penalties to companies hiring illegal workers. Do you support that recommendation?
Yes. I mean, we have actually an enforcement branch through the labor team that specifically looks at undocumented illegal workers. Of course, we do this in partnership with IRCC, in terms of our role, we are specifically there to enforce the Canada Labour Code for federally regulated workers and to make sure that anyone who's using temporary foreign workers is complying with the LMIA process.
Thank you, Minister. I appreciate that. I think that's clear. Do you think it's appropriate for the government to give public subsidies to companies that have been found guilty of hiring illegal workers?
Listen, I'm sure you're referring to a specific case. We're always interested in examining those specific cases, and I'd be happy to look at that if you provide the specific case.
Sure, your government is aware of the specific case because it was provided to me in an order paper question. A case of a company that it's called Ikaboshi LPC in New Brunswick. The LPC doesn't refer to the Liberal Party, I assume, but it's a seafood processing company. They received subsidies from your government on multiple occasions after they had fired Canadian workers and illegally employed foreign nationals. Is there any explanation for why a company that fired Canadian workers to replace them with illegally hired foreign nationals would receive multiple rounds of government subsidy?
I will look into the case and come back to you. It sounds concerning to me, and it will depend on which department provided what funding, but I'm interested to know more about that.
Thank you, Minister. It was information that was provided to me through an order paper question, so I know the government is already aware of it and has been aware of it for some time. But I'll look forward to your
well, as a
follow-up
minister, I'm
on
saying
that.
Patty Hadju is always very comfortable, relaxing on her same canned answers every single time. Well, you people voted against this, and you people voted against that, and you people voted against this, while going on about all her National Socialist programs that they provided, like free bag lunch for kids at school that they now want to make permanent, or paying for additional dental, or wanting to give daycare, $10 daycare, that bloody fiasco that has happened, or having to give back some tax dollars as a so-called grocery rebate, which was just rebranding, and already I think it was a GST rebate of some kind. Regardless, they keep celebrating their National Socialist band-aids, and then they bitch and whine about the Conservatives not voting for it, while ignoring doing their actual freaking jobs. Because, well, their job is not actually what they think their job is. Their job is what has been directed to them by their political ideology, which is, of course, to enrich themselves and their friends while giving the illusion of actually doing their work in Parliament. Now, here's a post by Sean Sargent, retired. Look at these national media headlines. These are not Twitter headlines. When we say Carnage is doing the same thing here as he did in the UK, we are called crazy and liars. But read the headlines. Sound familiar to what is being said here? He has expensive tastes, very expensive. He wants you to pay for it. Remember, he almost bankrupted the UK. There we go. Headlines here, eh? Arnie claims bank staggering expenses bill is justified. So he's used to eating a caviar while people line up at food banks. Furious Bank of England spends nearly £100,000 on staff summer party. Oh, what is that, $250,000? That's like $250,000. Cost of Carney's Egypt summit flight ballooned to $750,000 with no Air Force plane available. Yeah, that's right. We just decided to rent. No, God forbid he should use, regular airfare. Oh, of course he wouldn't, right? Or how about you just do the meeting over the phone? What has he flown around the planet like 7 times? His carbon footprint is more than how many families in Canada while he sells his climate change BS? Austerity not for Bank of England boss Mark Carney, who has racked up £300,000 in foreign travel expenses in 3 years. Oh yes, he loves to be expensive on the crown, doesn't he? Carney's in-flight menu includes fine wine, braised beef, and luxury butter, Canadian Taxpayers Federation says. Yeah, Carney criticized for nearly $200,000 spent on in-flight meals, including luxury Normandy buttercups. Carney's Toronto cabinet meeting cost over $500,000. Look at this. From the Taxpayers Federation. Bank of England trio expenses hit £100,000 for 3 months. Bank of England Governor Mark Carney under fire for £50,000 expense bill in 3 months. Well, I tried to warn you. What did you do? You listened to the CBC. You listened to all the government-controlled, taxpayer-funded media and figured that they were telling the truth, and everyone else who said, this guy's a clown, you called them maggots. Yes, maggots. But where's Carney now? Just the other day, the United States saying Canada will help make America great again. How do you feel now, you old bozos? Here's Blacklock's reporter. Figures confirm feds granted China EV makers access to about half the battery electric auto market here, contradicting their own claims that it was a small quota. It's a small quota. They lie to you like a rug. That's what liberals do, constantly lying. And now what Carney just announced, 500, 300 million, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment in more EV buses over in Quebec. Why? The bloody things don't work. Edmonton bought EV buses for $1 million a piece. More than half the fleet doesn't work. They can't park them in the garage to fix them because it might combust. There was a fiasco with a bunch of electric school buses. And, kids can't ride in those because they have a tendency to spontaneously combust. And why are we bringing in Chinese-made EVs that we know are being made with materials that have been created using forced labor from an evil Chinese communist reason? Because the Liberal Party has been infiltrated by the communist Chinese, just like they've allowed them to infiltrate into the government, and they are completely, fully compromised. I wonder how Mr. Wagner is doing out in BC. We haven't heard much more about his situation where they decided to put him under psychiatric hold for exposing Chinese influence, documented Chinese influence. Here's a post by Ezra Levant. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, Mark Carney was at a synagogue acting like he was going to do something about anti-Semitism, right? And he did the exact opposite. On the right is Firaz al-Najim, a terrorist supporter who regularly pickets outside Jewish synagogues, schools, and seniors' homes, posts Ezra Levant here. He is an Iranian agent in Canada. On the left is Omar al-Ghabra, pointed to Mark Carney's new Combating Anti-Semitism Committee. That's right. This little twerp is a known supporter of Hezbollah and Hamas, two very anti-Semitic or terrorist organizations, and they put him on the anti-Semitic committee? I guess if he wants to teach everyone else how to be anti-Semitic, I guess we need a diversity of opinion on the Combating Anti-Semitic Committee. Here's a post by Masha Kleiner. Or is it Kleiner? Kleiner. Now the Carney included Omar al-Ghabra on the Council for Combating Anti-Semitism. It is time for a quick resume. Omar al-Ghabra was born in Saudi Arabia to a Syrian family, immigrated to Canada in the 1980s. He brought his virulent anti-Semitism with him as luggage. Upon his arrival, he worked for the CAF, the Canadian Arab Federation. Know them well. A group so anti-Semitic that their federal funding was taken away by the court. I believe that happened when I was in Afghanistan back in 2011. For nearly 20 years, al-Ghabra has been almost consistently elected to the Canadian Parliament. He held various positions such as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade Diversification. At the same time, he often stated that Hamas and Hezbollah are not terrorist organizations and should be removed from the Canadian terrorist entities list. He tried to censor Canadian journalists who call Hamas a terrorist organization. Al-Ghabra publicly mourned Yasser Arafat. In his Arabic interview, he expressed disappointment. Canadian Muslims are insufficiently vocal in demanding Sharia law in Canada. Oh, my goodness me. Al-Ghabra called the Toronto officials to boycott Jewish charity events and oppose the collaboration between the Canadian police force and Israeli anti-terrorist units. Obviously, if you don't consider Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists, no anti-terrorist work is required either. Even following the October 7 massacre, even when directly questioned, Al-Ghabra refused to condemn Hamas, but he uses every opportunity to label Israel brutal and cruel. I wonder who the rest of the council members are. And there are some other names on here. These Avnish Nada, I believe, is the next weird one that they went and added on here. Here's the Globe Levitts. There are people on that committee, and I'm thinking of one who is a lawyer in Alberta, for example, who have said that the encampments on college campuses were not anti-Semitism. The Jewish community feels those were. Mark Miller, I'm not going to parse through the biographies of individual members. Oh, is that so? Well, let's listen to wanker Mark Miller, one of the architects of the unvetted mass immigration that brought in a lot of people with views antithetical to the morals and values of Canadian society, which has led to the massive amount of crime happening here in Canada, and the massive amount of people now going through our social services, reducing the quality, reducing its effectiveness, reducing its availability, which is why it will take you forever to ever find a doctor to help you with anything now in Canada because of this clown, along with his other clowns that were also in the immigration portfolio, like the other immigration minister and the current immigration minister. Again, let's listen to Mark Clown.
On that committee, though, there are people on that committee, and I'm thinking of one who's a lawyer in Alberta, for example, who have said that the encampments on college campuses were not anti-Semitism. The Jewish community feels those places were a place that fomented anti-Semitism. How are you going to arrive at a solution?
Well, look, Stephanie, I'm not going to parse through the biographies of individual members. The reality is, without defending any particular point of view, is that lawyers are entitled and obligated to do their jobs. I think dialogue is a good start.
Is it social media? On that committee, though,
Dialogue is a good start, eh? Okay. So, of course, CBC Watcher is piggybacking here on this post from Ezra Levant. Mark Carney appointed Avnish Nanda to the Combating Anti-Semitism Committee. He is the lawyer who sued the University of Alberta to keep pro-Hamas encampments open to humiliate Jewish students. And that's what this entire piece was about. And here's a post by Cat Canada. Polyev reveals that one of Carney's newly appointed Anti-Semitism Advisory Board members, Omar Al-Gabra, once lobbied Polyev to keep Hezbollah legal. He also points out that the head of the new Anti-Semitism Council, Mark Miller, wants to ban parts of the Torah. Let's listen.
Announcement yesterday on anti-Semitism. Do you think he's doing enough on the topic?
What announcement?
He announced like the creation of the council includes people like Omar Al-Gabra to deal with the issues of hatred, regardless, and anti-Semitism specifically as well.
Well, I remember Mr. Al-Gabra lobbying me before he was in politics to keep Hezbollah legal. So I'm not sure that he's the right guy to combat anti-Semitism. The last thing we need is another council. I mean, this is the problem with Mark Carney. Every time there's a problem, he creates a new bureaucracy, agency, council that does absolutely nothing except pay high per diems and expenses to a bunch of liberal insiders. He's appointed as the head of the council a minister who says he wants to ban part of the Jewish Torah that he considers to be politically incorrect. This is ridiculous. What we need to do is lock up the rampaging terrorists who are firing bullets at children's schools, firebombing synagogues, and terrorizing the Jewish community. We need to get control of our borders so no longer can anti-Semites, terrorists, and hate mongers come into our country. And we need to stop the extremely divisive divide and conquer identity politics of the Liberal Party that have caused this mayhem on our streets.
Indeed. He points that out very well. These divisive politics that the Liberals have been part of perpetually, because that's the only way they can win any election, is to making the other person look bad so that you don't look at all the BS that they've pulled for the past 11 years. Now here's a post by Sue Ann Levy. These two inform me that Melanie and I are not on the list to get into Carney's anti-Semitism presser, even though we RSVP'd, so because they are press. So essentially, all the Jew-hating media are being let in, and not a Jew. Sue Ann Levy is a Jew, a very well-known Jew. This is all performative, ridiculous, and just plain BS. Of course it is. That's why, like we pointed out, who's on this supposed council. Now, speaking of anti-Semitism in Canada, here's a post by Terry Newman. The chief of cardiac surgery at the Jewish General Hospital has tendered his resignation and plans to move to Atlanta in September. Oh my goodness. I said this wrong to somebody else the other day. I thought my brain, when you see paradigms, when people is going to move, you figure they're going to move to somewhere else in Canada. What I saw is they was going to move to Alberta, but no, he's leaving the country, moving to Atlanta in September, citing rising anti-Semitism in Montreal and worsening problems with the province's healthcare system. Exactly. Yeah. Well, when you've got people on the streets parading, and we showed that yesterday, where you have a parading through a residential area, screaming at the top of their lungs their hatred of Jews and wanting to kill Jews and all their other tribal BS that they brought into Canada that the Liberals have allowed into this country. And when you have somebody local saying, what the hell is this? And then the cops brutally attack him, punch him, put the cuffs on him, and then don't even arrest him to protect those yahoos. And of course, he's got something like that. And of course, this comes out the same day. Maybe he's watching this video and going, oh my God, even the cops are beating up on people that don't like this rampant anti-Semitism running around the province. I'm out of here. And of course he is. Montreal is just a den of it. They're allowing them on the streets to parade about like a bunch of gangsters, intimidating other people with their chants and screams, and allowing them to cover their faces while doing it. Very intimidating. I'm not surprised he's leaving. That, of course, has reposted this. The U.S. State Department has granted South African Boers refugee status in America because of anti-white discrimination in that country. They are hardworking farmers who share U.S. values. Maybe it's time for the State Department to make the same offer to Canada's Jews. In fact, it'd be nice if the State Department just offered that to anybody whose life were destroyed by liberal policies, which would be about half the country. Which you might just say, well, no need in coming. There's got too many of you over there that really hate your government. Maybe you guys need help. Here's a post by Sudden and Unexpected. Canada modeling non-voluntary euthanasia to save trillions. Hey, Granny, how you doing? You're costing Canada too much money. Here, walk into the suicide booth. A new academic study is calculating how much money the government could save by dramatically expanding euthanasia, including non-voluntary scenarios for vulnerable people. They're literally running the numbers on ending lives without consent as a budget solution. We've covered this before. And so has Kelsey. This is her bailiwick, Kelsey Sharon. That's not dystopian fiction. That's a real paper being discussed right now. The study projects potential savings of up to $1.27 trillion by 2047. The offers themselves raise serious ethical concerns about turning assisted dying into a cost-saving tool for the state. Yeah. What do you think? I think perhaps this granny here might be a little upset, but she's upset for the wrong reason. Right? Gen Xer here is Canadian grandma just read the Globe and Mail's latest Absolutely Unloaded article says, Canada faces crippling debt. It must do the unpopular thing and cut elderly benefits. Right, that's the first step. Make your life more miserable and then offer you the suicide booth. Her response? Well, let's listen to her response.
Morning. Did you all wake up to this little story this morning? Yes. Okay, we're going into a recession, so let's cut the seniors' benefits, the ones who paid the taxes in this country for how many years, the ones who have defended this country through our military. No, let's cut them instead of attacking the immigration spending, the money we ship out of country, the lavish meals our prime minister spends upon himself while flying himself all around the world to improve Brookfield profits. I am so fucking sick of this country. I cannot wait till the citizens get their shit together, stand up, and get rid of this fucking tyranny. Good morning. Did you all wake up to...
Unfortunately for me, that woman has more sense than my own mother. Here's a post by Richard. What most people already understand, even without the economic terminology, is that firms like BlackRock operate less like investors and more like modern feudal landlords. And that's not just BlackRock. I'm using this article also because it pretty well replicates what Brookfield is also doing. They buy essential infrastructure, water networks, ports, energy grids, data centers, and other public necessities, often using vast amounts of borrowed money and paying prices that ordinary market participants cannot match. Once the acquisition is complete, the debt is pushed into the acquired company itself. So, we know that the Liberals are getting ready to sell off infrastructure here in Canada to people like Brookfield. They're going to sell off the airports. They're going to sell off the ports and guarantee there's going to be some low-interest loan provided by the Bank of Canada under orders of the Liberal Party to their Liberal friends over in Brookfield to purchase all these things, described exactly like they're doing it right here. And the result is simple. The public pays. Consumers repay that debt through higher water bills, a debt that they already loaned the money to buy this infrastructure with. Rising energy prices, increased fees, and declining service quality. Because, they got to get corners. They got to make a bargain. They might get deal, right? Because they've told their investors high returns, and they got to give themselves a bonus as well, while you pay through the nose. Consumers repay the debt, right? So the infrastructure becomes cash extraction machine, not a system that is supposed to reinvest in itself and provide higher quality. Profits flow upwards to the shareholders and executives while the financial burden flows downwards to the household and to the crumbling infrastructure until they can squeeze every last drop out of it. And at the end of that, they'll just sell it off to another shell company. When the model inevitably breaks down, the consequences are socialized. The communities are left with crumbling infrastructure, polluted rivers, and failing services. Thames Water's $14 billion debt mountain and repeated sewage scandals are a stark example of what happens when financial engineering takes precedence over public stewardship. So we just read that story about them looking at, killing Canadians early to save money. This is where we've gone to in Canada, right? Where everything is about, we got to make money. It's all about the money. It's all about the big cash thing, while ignoring ethics, values, and looking after other human beings. Because if you do that, well, then you can't get rich off that. And that's all the Liberals ever want to do, is make themselves and their friends rich. The executives who loaded the company with debt have already collected their bonuses. The investors have already taken the returns. And when the system finally reaches breaking point, taxpayers are expected to pick up the bill. Privatize the gains, socialize the losses, and that is the business model. And that is how Mark Carney got rich. Melissa says, wow, less than 1 month ago, Carney and Macron met in Armenia and discussed things like AI. Now today, Brookfield is investing $10 billion into France. What a coinkydink. Wouldn't be such a big deal, except Carney holds over 400,000 shares of Brookfield. Indeed. Let's bring up this picture. See, Prime Minister meets with Carney, blah, 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 blah. They also highlighted opportunities to expand trade investment in priority sectors as critical minerals, artificial intelligence, quantum technologies, and boom, says it May 4th. And then, updated, May 6th. Canadian asset manager Brookfield to invest $10 billion in data center. The connections everywhere that Mark Carney uses our tax money to fly himself around on a planet is not really to get deals for Canada. No. It's for him to enrich himself and to ensure that his company of Brookfield continues to make lots and lots of cash. And if you can't see that, then you're willfully blind. And speaking of willfully blind people, that CTV needs to be honest and put this banner whenever Scott Reid comes on. Scott Reid, whose son works for the Liberal Party. Yeah, this guy is a terminal Liberal. He DM'd me, called me a fascist, and then blocked me. That's the kind of person he is. Yeah, blocking a 38-year veteran for trying to get answers on facts and reality, and this guy just carries Liberal water like it's nothing. Like it's a necessity in life. Like everyone else should cover it. And if they don't cover Liberal water, then they should drown in that Liberal water, is Scott Reid's attitude. Holly Doan, another post here. ICYMI access to information records obtained by Black Box reporter indicate that CBC received a deluge of criticisms from viewers. Really? Because they all think that they're, whatever comes out of the rear end don't stink. And let's get into a few vaccine stories here. Now, it's a post here by the Vigil at Fox. It's an interview with Theo Vaughn. Let's listen.
Was there anybody who was immune to like any genetics or demographics or cultures that were immune to COVID-19?
There's one adult group, you're going to laugh, but there's one adult group, but no specific ethnicity or culture, but you're going to laugh. Smokers.
Smokers couldn't get it?
They got it very mild cases. And they don't get long COVID. You know why?
Why?
Because smokers maintain a level of nicotine in the bloodstream. They actually smoke frequently enough. Blood nicotine blocks the spike protein as it's interfacing with the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. Smoking blocks the spike protein. It's amazing. I thought smokers were going to go down.
Well, who knows now then? All those years of all those smoking advertisements ended up probably saving people's lives 40 years later.
My God. Well, you know what? We use a nicotine patch, 7 milligram patch, even in non-smokers to help them through long COVID. We use it in addition to the McCullough protocol.
I've seen people recommend that people should just be on nicotine take a nicotine patch. Do you think that's a good idea on a regular basis, or is that just?
I think if they have long COVID, I recommended to a patient yesterday, if they have long COVID symptoms, nicotine, don't forget, is a nootropic. A nootropic is a drug that does make the brain function more effectively. It's a methylxanthine. It's related to caffeine. Caffeine does the same thing as a nootropic. So some people use nicotine little packets or what have you. I grew up in Texas, so the kids were dip snuffing. And,
we used to chew that up. Plug tobacco.
Right. My dad was a chain.
All right. Sorry about that. Looks like the system didn't like that last little video. Everything started to seize up. So here's a post by Valerie Ann Smith. U.S. Ambassador Michael Bennett, did you say Lyme disease is an engineered bioweapon? RFK, I did say that. Right. Let's listen to this. Let's bring the sound up first.
Militarily engineered bioweapon.
I probably did say that.
Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I want all of
said.
our colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. Did you say that exposure to pesticides? Lyme disease is a highly likely.
So we've covered videos recent on this channel of people dropping helicopters dropping boxes of ticks on private properties. People on those properties recording, what the hell is that chopper doing? And they go over and they're ticking over this box and there's just ticks pouring out of it. Same reports happening here in Canada. Telling you. And these are not your simple black ticks that your dog's going to come back in, have them all in their mouth usually, right? Because they're in there maybe chewing on some grass and stuff and they get them in there. It's not, you can actually make some nice clean concoctions. I believe it's uses clove and pepper and some other ones. They work great for keeping insects out of the house, and they also use to keep other insects out of the yard. And you can spray this all over. It's not going to harm anything. I believe garlic is a really good one too. I don't like that at all. Anyway, last post here by Line Advocacy. I have reasonable grounds to suspect that the reason the newly formed Vaccine Impact Assistance Program, the VIAP, Vaccine Impact Assistance Program, under the direction of PHAC, the Public Health, can't remember what the hell they're called now, is delayed in processing COVID-19 vaccine injury claims is because most doctors are too scared or conflicted to admit the jab causes mass injuries. For clarity, VIAP needs a medical review team of physicians to evaluate and process COVID-19 injuries. And another post here by Line Advocacy. And then, of course, Kayla Polak, she had announced a couple of days ago that she finally found a doctor. Now, this is somebody who's like severely injured. Still nothing after 4 years to help her out, right? Kayla Polak is at ground zero, updating on this regularly. PHAC took over on April 1st. PHAC knew this well in advance, but they couldn't prepare doctors at a time to tackle all the claims. No way, makes no sense. And then, of course, here's a post by Kayla that said, I obtained government records through ATIP requests. Since PHAC took over the Vaccine Injury Support Program, there were no doctors hired for the new independent medical review process, which is what happens usually when Liberals get empowered. Deny until you die. Yesterday, a second neurologist confirmed my paralysis was caused by my COVID shot. So who is reviewing vaccine injury claims? If there are no doctors, how are injured Canadians supposed to be assessed and compensated? Tag PHAC and make them answer. Well, it gets a little worse, and it's true. I mean, we knew it ahead of time. We could see it, which is why those of us who refused to take it and lost our careers, because we could see the evidence. We could see the injuries and the deaths happening. Well, but the government and our bosses in the military, oh, it's safe and effective. You're going to take it or you're going to lose your job, you evil anti-vaxxer. Oh, yeah? This latest one here by Rebel News should have you quite furious if you haven't heard it before. And this is why I call the Liberal Party uber evil. Because they knew, and they did it anyway.
You know what bothers me most about the government's COVID-19 vaccine campaign? It's not just that they spent tens of millions of taxpayer dollars trying to convince Canadians to get vaccinated. It's that they were doing it while simultaneously receiving reports of deaths, heart inflammation, strokes, miscarriages, and other serious adverse events following those same vaccines. And I have the government documents today to prove it.
And we know the way to do that is to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible. Every single vaccine available in Canada has been approved by Health Canada as being both safe and effective.
Now, please go to their site and watch the entire piece. Tamara Ugolini, also Rebel News, when she tried to find out who certified the vaccine for human injection, couldn't be found. Not a single medical professional certified this thing. Oh, they can't even find who authorized it. Oh, a committee of soulless, unknown people, apparently, made the decision that it was safe and effective, that it was good to go. But who? Who wrote their name down? Who said, I'm responsible. I'm the one who authorizes this. I'm the one who's saying, we got to do this in order for everyone to live. Or else everybody going to die. Everybody going to die. No, nobody will take responsibility for it. We warned you. We warned you back then. This is exactly the playbook that they would do. And here we are into the playbook. People are still waiting for help. People are still dying. And nobody's being held accountable for the mass injury and the mass murder that they caused. Thank you all for coming out. We'll see you tomorrow for second breakfast at 9 a.m. Please come back and see us. And by the way, our gardening channel is up, and we have updates on the growth of the garden every single day. So please watch those as well. Thank you all for coming out. See you later. Bye-bye.